Hello, everyone. Welcome to our phenomenal week 17 of Spotlight on What's Next 2026. And today we are bringing you from translation to trajectory, sustaining momentum into strategic direction. I'm Dr. Rhonda Farrell, the CEO of Global Innovation and Strategies, and we've built a ton of leadership progression over the last 10 weeks. Really focused on how do we bring leadership to the next level. Week 10, establishing trust. Week 11, converting trust into traction. Week 13, transformation is institutionalized. Week 14, elevating transformation into systemic advantage. Week 15, converting capacity into strategic leverage, and week 16, translating momentum into measurable impact. And now week 17 addresses our next leadership question. Once momentum is translating into results, how do leaders ensure it sustains direction over time? Because in 2026, results alone are not enough. Results must align to the trajectory that you're aiming at going forward. So our emerging leadership reality is across sectors: government, defense, technology, entrepreneurship, and enterprise. And new signal is becoming unmistakable. Organizations are generating traction, translating activity into outcomes, demonstrating measurable progress. But beneath that progress, a new challenge is emerging. Momentum is increasing, but the direction is not always clear. In other words, results are happening. They've not stopped, but they're not always compounding strategically. And while progress may be visible, it's not always directional in the area that we are aiming at most. So in today's environment, what that creates is undirected momentum creates drift. I think all of you have heard me and others talk about your true north. And what that means is really, what is the bullseye that you are aiming for your organizations, both from our results and in an outcome, as well as your strategic and mission alignment, as well as your culture and core values. It is a holistic solution that you are creating. And when we have drift, either slight or significant, this is disruptive across the whole. So the pattern that leaders must recognize is that we are entering a new phase of leadership maturity. Momentum created movement. Translation, i.e., our people and our leaders working on and between the various operational units, is what created results. But neither guarantees results align to our ultimate strategic direction, because trajectory requires something different. And that means a recalibration, an intentional recalibration and realignment of results over time towards a defined future state that we are continuously evolving. Hence, why we have the need to recalibrate so often. So without that, our results and our outcomes are going to fragment. We're going to get plateaus in our growth. We're going to have effort dispersion, and our advantage is going to erode. So the next leadership shift that we're under, and it's critical, is from translating results to directing outcomes toward a sustained trajectory. So we need to ask a different question, not are we getting results, but are our results moving us towards where we actually want to go and have previously defined? And is it with the entirety of the organization behind it, right? Because each initiative, each team, each day that we do things not in alignment means a diffusion of our resources, our capital, and an inability to achieve the results and outcomes in the timely manner that we may have set, or in the most efficient and effective manner that we could take on. So, what does strategic trajectory actually look like? Well, trajectory does not actually equate to a maximum speed. It also is not a maximum activity, and it may not even equate to short-term success. But trajectory is the ability for ourselves and our organizations to realign or align for the first time results across time, to reinforce strategic direction through recalibrated execution, and that could be daily, to ensure every gain compounds towards long-term positioning, and to maintain clarity under continuous acceleration. So trajectory is where momentum becomes intentional progress, especially in the direction that's most important to us during this decision cycle. So our 3 trajectory moves for week 17 are: 1, connect every result to a strategic direction. Translation ensures outcomes exist. Trajectory ensures those results and outcomes matter over time. So our leadership move in this area is to map our current results to long-term goals, identify where outcomes are disconnected from strategy, eliminate efforts that do not compound. So what's changing? We're really going from outcome-based execution towards direction-based leadership and operations. Number 2, build reinforcement across time, because one of the greatest risks in high-performing organizations is inconsistency across cycles. Leaders often achieve results in one quarter and may shift focus in the next, unintentionally resetting the direction, which disables them from ultimately achieving the larger trajectory goals. So trajectory requires consistency of priorities, reinforcement of strategic themes, alignment across initiatives over time, because progress compounds only when direction remains stable. Number 3, protect against momentum drift. Momentum can create very high levels of energy in our organization, but that energy without recalibrated control oftentimes creates misalignment. Therefore, we get diffused results and outcomes because we are not operationally, strategically, and tactically aligned with the pivot we made. So high-performing organizations and leaders are learning to pause and recalibrate, re-anchor teams to strategic intent, stop initiatives that dilute direction. So the discipline is not just in re-acceleration after the recalibration, it is the discipline to course correct in the first place. And why does this matter so much now? Because 2026 environment is requiring us to harness AI to compress execution timelines, to increase competition across sectors, to harness our workforce capacity better under pressure, to rapidly innovate across shorter cycles, and to undergo constant decisioning. The demand in this area is very high. So in this environment, the risk is not the lack of results. The risk is that the results are not in alignment and therefore misdirected. And that resource allocation that is not in alignment can get very expensive. So for solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, it may look like you're producing, but not necessarily progressing your organization overall. For executive leaders, you may be scaling, but not necessarily advancing strategically according to your framework. So let's take a moment to reflect this week. Where are you and your organization generating results, but not necessarily reinforcing that trajectory or direction, your true north? Which initiatives are successful, but somehow completely now disconnected from your long-term goals, i.e., the money pits? Where is momentum creating drift instead of alignment? And are your outcomes compounding, or are they resetting each cycle? Because they are not execution issues per se, they are trajectory misalignment signals. So our week 17 action is to choose one area where the results are most visible, right? We want skin in the game so that it's important for you to recalibrate and become in greater, stronger alignment strategically, operationally, and tactically. And then ask, what long-term direction does this support? How does this result and outcome compound over time? What should we stop doing to strengthen alignment? And what must remain consistent to sustain trajectory? So we need you to take one step to connect execution to informed direction, because trajectory begins with intentional realignment. So what comes next? In week 18, we'll move from trajectory to endurance, how organizations sustain direction through disruptions, leadership transitions, and external pressure, and how to ensure that momentum holds even when the conditions we're operating within change. Our closing thought for today is that momentum creates movement, translation creates results, but trajectory, it is what ensures progress leads somewhere meaningful. And in the leadership landscape of 2026, those who lead will not simply produce results, they will ensure every result builds towards a future that is intentional, sustained, and strategically aligned. Again, this is Dr. Rhonda Farrell, the CEO of Global Innovation Strategies, wrapping up week 17 of Spotlight on What's Next, from translation to trajectory, sustaining momentum into strategic direction.